Actors, if you're struggling with self-taping and it just feels kind of stale and you're not really getting anywhere, you're shooting takes all the time and you're just not happy with your work, this is something that you can try. Stop rehearsing. Stop rehearsing the performance that you're going to give on your tape, because then what happens is you've locked it in and you get into what I call a predictable performance pattern, and it becomes really, really hard to break away from it. Now, this might actually be desirable on set where you are shooting take after take from multiple angles. They're doing coverage, let's say, and the director is like, yep, same, let's just go again. Same thing, same thing, same thing. A lot of the time there's going to be little differences in how you're going to play the scene, but that overall sort of feeling of same, because we're trying to capture that from multiple angles, might be what you're going for on set a lot of the time. But spontaneity in auditions is something that I think makes it alive. Focusing on the spontaneity of it can be easier said than done. And one of the ways that you can actually make your auditions more spontaneous is by just simply not rehearsing. Of course, memorize the scene, run your lines, but don't get too attached to a certain way of thinking of the scene, saying your lines, perceiving the other person's dialogue, the emotional qualities of the scene. Leave all of those open to interpretation and then just go right into shooting takes. What could happen is years and years of this process of like rehearsing the scene a few times and then shooting your self-tape or going into an audition might just be ingrained in you, and that's going to be a little bit harder to shake. And that's where training comes in, specific training that targets impulses, instincts, spontaneity, and breaking away from predictable performance patterns. One of those things that you can start doing today is just simply not rehearsing before the first take. Now, a common mistake that actors might make when they follow advice like this is to just use every take as a rehearsal. And so they end up just shooting a million takes. And so you definitely want to stay far away from that. An easy thing to remember is no more than 4. That's not a hard and fast rule, but a lot of the time when I coach actors specifically, like we will either stop at 2 or 3, but we just no more than 4. Across that gamut of 4 takes, you can explore a lot of different territory. And thinking of the audition itself, the self-tape as an exploration is, I think, a key ingredient here. Rather than it's the performance, try to think of it as the exploration. So there's nothing to rehearse because I'm simply exploring on camera and I'm shooting variations of this scene and I'm playing moment to moment across my reader, and we're kind of mixing things up between the takes. Oh, did I walk in on this one? Okay, maybe I'll be here. Or let me go sitting versus standing. Let's try one with a little more pace. Let's just like little kind of cues rather than like overly directing and curating it. Because I think once you start doing that, you're kind of using the takes to rehearse to create a certain result. It's a bit of a paradigm shift in terms of an actor's thinking and how they actually approach self-taping. You know, many actors are going to see it like, I need to give that performance. To give that performance, I need to rehearse. Actors will prefer to rehearse before they shoot or before they go into an audition or callback, and others will use the takes themselves as a rehearsal. And what I'm suggesting here for actors to try as something different is to actually just not rehearse at all and don't use the takes as a rehearsal. Just something different that you can try, and just see if you can live with the fact that it is what it is. As you're playing the scene, you are figuring out what's going on. As you're playing the scene, it's coming to life. Now, you could have ideas ahead of time, or possibilities, as I like to say, as to what's going on between the characters and the conflict and the relationships and all that kind of stuff. I think personally that the less you know going in, the more discoveries you can actually make. To a degree, you know, there's a fine line here, and experimentation and exploration is what it's really all about. And that's the scary part, isn't it? That's what scares most actors. I don't know what's going to happen. Well, what if something good doesn't happen? What if I don't stand out? What if an amazing thing doesn't take place in the first 10 seconds? And that's going to separate a lot of actors, those who are always trying to do something and make something happen, and those who will let things happen and allow things to take place, and also just simply allow the simplicity of just saying the lines or just having a conversation to happen. This is a major thing that actors will wrestle with. That risk, it's hard to accept. The risk that you're not going to do something brilliant, that not curating it could possibly result in something great and interesting or something completely flat. But again, if you're self-taping, you have full control here. I just advise actors not to kind of take that too far and just shoot a million takes. This does take restraint, not rehearsing and actually memorizing the scene, having some possibilities for what could be going on and what it's about. And I call that the guts approach: gain understanding, tell story, just the simplicity of that. Different people will have a different way of perceiving the understanding versus the interpretation. Some will do less work, some will do more work. That's entirely up to the actor, I think. This is just a suggestion to get you out of your head, to shake up your current process, shift that paradigm into accepting or at least humoring the idea that greatness can happen without rehearsal. Follow for more.